All right, what's up, you guys? Today on Elite Performance Podcast, we're talking about clarity. And if you have ever struggled with trying to find clarity on what to do next, what next step to take, what is my purpose, how do I figure this out, and you're coming up with the answer of I don't know, or you've just struggled to find clarity in anything, today's podcast is for you. And I highly encourage you to take notes today because we're going to be walking through really how to get clarity. And most of us are closer to clarity than what we think. We're going to be breaking down what I like to call the lost art of critical thinking. We got to start learning how to think critically again. I'm going to be breaking that down today on Elite Performance Podcast with Dr. Brad. And as always, I'm Dr. Brad, your performance coach for men, and I help high achieving professional men be able to gain clarity and develop consistency so that they can win and succeed in their career business without sacrificing their fitness, their family, and their faith. And so, as always, make sure you share this episode or this podcast with someone else. If you're watching this live, you can click share. If you're watching this on a replay, make sure you share this with someone else, as really at the end of the day, I just want to bless you guys with the knowledge and the experience that I've gained from me bumping my head against the wall so that you don't have to, and so that you can condense time frames to be able to achieve at a high level in your health, wealth, and relationships, and not take the amount of time that it took me to. So you can benefit from my experience and from my wins and losses, because I simply want to see every man win and live a life of power over their circumstances, a life of peace, a life of peak performance, and really a life of fulfilling your potential. So, like I mentioned, today we're going to be talking about clarity. The reason why this came up is because over the last week, there's been a couple of conversations that I've had with clients and people that I know who are challenged with trying to figure out what is my next step? What is my purpose? I don't know, what to do. I feel stuck. Okay. And so if you've ever been in that place, and I have been in that place before, where clarity is what you're looking for. Clarity is so valuable, right? Because when you feel stuck, it feels like you just don't know where to go and you feel lost. And so for many of us, that clarity can be in anything, or that lack of clarity can be in anything. It could be in our health. It could be in, I don't know what I need to do to get in shape. I've tried and things aren't working. Where do I start? When it comes to your wealth or business or career, you may not know. You may feel like you're in a place where you're not where you want to be, but you really don't know what next step to take to start a business, or within your business, or in your career, if you should change directions. Again, lack of clarity, not sure where to go, feel lost, not sure what next step to take. Even in our relationships, questions of how do I fix my marriage? Is it fixable? How can I fix certain relationships that I've broken with friends or family or children? But I need you to understand, and before I move any further, let you know that the clarity that you seek is far closer than you probably realize. And today I'm going to be talking about this lost art of critical thinking. It's something that we've lost over time. And what I mean by that is this ability to be able to stop and think, ask ourselves these questions, and see what answers we actually come up with. Right? Ask ourselves, like, hey, what is the best next step to take? One of the first questions that I'll ask some of my clients is, have you really thought about the question? Have you really tried to actually come up with an answer? And so for many of us, we've just lost the the interest in trying to find the answer. We've lost the how valuable it is for us to seek the answer. Um, you know, there was a day where people, they would read the Bible, they would read books, and they would come up with their own philosophies and principles of how to live. Right? It's how they saw the world around them based on them reflecting on their own life. Um, and we've now, I feel, have come to a place in our society where we rely more on the pastor's thoughts. Nothing against the pastor, right? Right, because we need some of his life experience, and we need his or her message for us to be able to develop some of our own philosophy. I've borrowed philosophies from multiple different pastors, from multiple different speakers, from multiple different, what you want to call coaches or gurus, like, from reading, from listening, right? But it's enabled for me to develop my own way of thinking and principles. And for many of us, we lack a set of foundational philosophies that we've thought enough about to be able to go and reference to, so that we can answer some of the questions where we are when we're stuck. And so if there's anything I want to encourage you with today, is to start to develop the habit of critical thinking, the habit of trying to find the answer. We have lost the ability to go find the answer and just have accepted our own answer of, I don't know. Of, I don't know what next step to take. Well, let me just tell you, that's not a good enough answer. And listen, I get it. I get it. I've been there before, where you almost don't want to think. And we're going to talk about that today. But part of the problem, and let me back up a second. Listen, it feels bad to feel stuck. You feel lost. You feel like I don't know if I'm ever going to get out. It's kind of like running, kind of being in quicksand. Like, you move, but you feel like you're not really moving. You know, Life's kind of going through the motions, right? Like, I get it. And so I don't want you to feel that way. And over my life experience, I've started to realize that I've been able to come up with a lot of these answers by simply sitting down and spending time. So the challenge that we face in trying to gain clarity is that, one of the things is we focus more on our being stuck. We focus more on our stuckedness than focusing on a solution, right? We can recognize that we're stuck, and we focus on that more than we focus on actually what is the next step. And if there's any principle, one of the principles I've learned is that what you focus on expands. So if you focus on being stuck, if you focus on the fact that you don't have clarity, if you focus on constantly thinking, I don't know the answer, I don't know what my purpose is, I'm struggling with the purpose, you're focusing on the problem, and therefore what you focus on expands. And so the problem expands. The problem becomes so big that the solution that you really need doesn't get focused on and becomes smaller. So one of our challenges is we focus more on the circumstance than we do the solution. One of the other challenges is that we live in a world and a society that focuses more on tasks than it does thinking. We focus more on doing than we do actually thinking things out. One of my favorite brands is Nike. Just do it. We want to just go do it. We live in the world of hashtag hustle and grind and action takers or money makers, right? Like all these things, which I don't disagree with, but I don't fully agree with it. See, Nike, they'll never do this, but I believe it should be think first, then do it. Think first, then do it. Or just do it after you think. But we've glorified doing. we've glorified doing because we feel better about ourselves when we're doing something, even if what we're doing is may not necessarily be the assignment that we've been called to do. So, you know, it's a challenge for us when we live in this world of doing, because so much of it is glorified, that we don't want to stop to think, am I doing the right thing? I've made the analogy multiple times that many of us are moving so fast. I've been guilty of this myself, is that we're running and we feel so good running that other people are watching us run, other people are watching us work, other people are watching us hustle, other people are watching us grind. We get a chance to know that we're doing something, and we see ourselves moving, but we don't want to look up long enough to see if we are running in the wrong direction. See, that challenges our way of thinking, because when we kind of set a path and then we run, we don't want to pick up our heads long enough to realize, am I running in the wrong direction, or do I need to course correct? That challenges our own thoughts, because we made the decision to start running, right? And then the other thing is, we accept I don't know far too often. We just accept the answer of I don't know far too often. I'll tell you a quick story. I was talking to my son the other day, and we were working on a Mother's Day gift for my wife, and it was a craft that we were trying to put together, and and I asked my son a question, uh, because we needed to staple something. I said, "Where's the stapler?" And without looking, right? Simple question. Without looking at all, he looked straight at me and said, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, son, that's not a good enough answer." He then stopped and just looked around him. He didn't take a step anywhere. He just kind of looked around and said, "Yeah, I don't know where it is, Dad." And I challenged him. I said, "Son, is it that you don't know where it is, or you haven't taken the time to go find it?" For many of us, it's not that we don't know the answer to what do we need to do next. It's not that we don't know the answer or have it's not that we don't know the solution to what our purpose is, or what's the best next step to take. The real thing is, have we really spent enough time trying to find it? Or are we just saying, by saying I don't know, are we really just saying, I haven't looked? Hey, I haven't really looked. I've just kind of accepted that I don't know. Unacceptable. But here's the deal. I understand. I get it. And here's why. Because I've had to think, like, why, right? My own critical thinking. I had to think, like, why do we not think? Like, these are some of the challenges that prevent us from thinking. But like, why don't we overcome some of these challenges and sit down and really think our way through things? Well, one of the things I figured out is that for many of us, it's hard to challenge our current direction that we're going and way of thinking. You know, if we set out to pursue something, for whatever reason, right? And we stop to think that either I'm this may not be the thing I need to be pursuing. Particularly if we're talking about your purpose, your business, or your career, your assignment, however you want to, your vocation, however you want to call that. We don't want to think about the fact that maybe we made a mistake, right? So we will keep ourselves busy doing the thing instead of slowing down, and trying to figure out what's the right thing, because it just feels better to not have to think about whether we've made a mistake. So we'll just keep on running, or we get so familiar with the day to day, like I gotta keep working because I gotta pay the bills, right? I gotta keep working to just keep up the lifestyle instead of really kind of figuring out what I want. You know, man, one of the killer of dreams is just familiarity. And um, there was someone that I knew who got really excited about a new project that they wanted to start. This is someone who I know very successful, actually, very successful as a physician. And this person, and I knew this person from medical school and ran into them at a conference. And at that conference, we were just talking about kind of things that we were doing, things we were working on. And that person shared with me something that they were really thinking about doing. And I was excited for them. I said, listen, I'll help you get some clarity around it. What you want to do is this big idea. Yes, it was probably going to take some time to achieve, but it was something they really wanted. And I sat down with them, got clarity. They were really excited. And we said, listen, we're going to do some research. And in about a month, we'll come back. We'll reconvene, have another meeting, and kind of figure out what are next steps. And around the time for us to follow up for that next meeting, about a month afterwards, the person told me, say, you know what? I think it's just going to be better off for me to just keep practicing the way I'm practicing and not start this big idea that that they were thinking about. And the person literally told me, they say, you know what, part of the problem is I make too much money right now for me to justify starting to do something different. So I'm just going to try to kind of make what I'm currently doing work for a while. And what I could sense was that somebody either destroyed her dream or somehow she got convinced that being familiar with what she was currently doing was a better decision than to go out and go after what she really wanted, and somebody told me a quote the other day that just hit me like, oh my gosh. And it said, a familiar hell, check this out, a familiar hell is better than an unfamiliar heaven. So many of us are okay with doing the busy stuff to stay in a familiar hell instead of picking up our heads away from the busy work right now to experience an unfamiliar heaven. So our challenge is, it's hard to stop the doing and start the thinking, because it challenges the decisions that we made in the past, and that we got to say, you know what, maybe I got to do something different. And sometimes we just don't want to come to that conclusion. The other thing is, the reason why we don't want to stop and think is because when you really stop and think about what you want, when you really stop and think about what it is that you want, because for many of us, when we're talking about getting unstuck, it's really a lack of clarity. It's us not being able to really be honest with ourselves with what we really want. So when you stop and consider what it is that you really want in your health, what you really want in your wealth, what you really want in your relationships, and when you come to that conclusion, you now got to do something about it, because it's going to be hard for you to really accept the fact that you figured out what you wanted, but did nothing to go and try and get it. So it's easier to just say, you know what, I'm working, I'm doing stuff, right? And what does everybody say whenever you ask them how they doing? Hey man, what's going on? How you doing? Oh man, just keeping busy. That's what everybody say. I mean, just staying busy, man. It's easier for us to stay busy than to really wrestle with our own thoughts and say, what do you really want? And then say, you know what? Well, I got to do something about this now. It's hard to figure out what you really want and then not go after it. that just doesn't make it's hard for the mind to do. So it's easier to just ignore it. And for many of us, the reason why we don't want to sit down and get the clarity, the reason why we don't want to get unstuck is because if we do get clarity on what we want, we worry so much on how it's going to happen that we go back to the familiar hell instead of seeking for the unfamiliar heaven. Because when we think big like that, which by the way, we were, as I always say, as the word says, you were made in the image and likeness of God. So as you start to spend time and think, and you get these big thoughts that challenge you, and you sit and you be like, oh my gosh, that's what I want. And then the first thing you think is, how in the world is that going to happen? And you either bring your hopes and dreams down, or you just put them away. Like, it's because we're trying to figure out, how is it going to happen? And when we don't get the answers to that, we just draw back. And I get it. I understand. But I'm going to walk you through how to start getting clarity. Because like I said, I feel like it's this lost art of us being able to critically think, but we got to start thinking on our own. See, one of the things that we all have to recognize, and one of the reasons why I believe reading the Bible is so fruitful, is because there is a word and a message in there that's waiting for you. See, the same scripture, the same story may have something different for me. See, when I coach, I'm not trying to give you an answer. I'm trying to help you with how to think things out. Right? Like my son that same day, he was like, I don't know what a staple is. I said, well, son, let me ask you a question. If you were looking for the stapler, what is the room that is the likely place where the stapler would be? Like, let's start thinking about how to think, right? My goal for you is to be equipped on how to think, not just give you an answer. That doesn't help you to just give you an answer. I don't know your answer, right? I don't know your answer. You know your answer, but you got to stop long enough to consider these questions and be relentless to know that the answer is there, right? That's between you and God. That's between you and the knowledge that you've acquired up to this point to try to get an answer, right? But if you don't spend time, you'll never find. If you don't spend time seeking the stapler, you'll never find it. If you don't spend time seeking the answer, you won't find it. I don't know is unacceptable. And we gotta get better at realizing that the answer is there. You gotta know that the answer is there. So here's how I think. Here's what's helped me, and how I think you can get some clarity is first, you got to create some space and time to just stop and think. You'll hear me say this so many times, but you just gotta create the space and time in quiet to stop and think. And quite honestly, when you ask yourself these questions that I'm going to go over here in a second, that time to wrestle with these answers, that's time with you and God. Like that's time where you're thinking. You get an opportunity to use your mind. It might be difficult, but it's necessary. So once you've created this space and time, it doesn't matter, 30 minutes, an hour. But ask yourself this question: what do I want? It's always going to start with what do you want. It's always going to start with what do you want? Because whether you're stuck, whether it's your purpose, whether it's next step to take, it's the first question I'm going to always ask myself or you is going to be, what do you want? And what do you really want? I don't want the answer that you think I want to hear. And you shouldn't accept the answer that is just kind of like what you think the answer should be. It should be from the heart, like what you really want. And when you come up with this answer, don't worry about how it's going to happen. Just don't worry about how it's going to happen. The question is, what do you want? Because if we're going to spend time on this earth, whatever we're going to go after and what we do needs to be worth it. So therefore, you got to come up with a real answer of what you want. What do you want your health to look like? What do you want your health and fitness to look like? Okay. I don't care how many pounds away it is. I don't care how many inches away it is. It don't matter. What do you want? Let's get clear on that. It's difficult for God to answer a prayer that you ain't prayed, that you haven't gotten clear on. You're like, I don't know what to do. Look, yes, I can bless you every day with life and vision and breath, but with what you want, part of it, you got to figure that out. So what do you want it to look like? What do you want your wealth to look like? What do you want what is the ideal career or business? What do you want your relationship to look like? What's the ideal situation that you want? Let's get clear on it. Okay? We got to get clear on that. Spend time thinking about what you want. Don't worry about how. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. That's not up to you. See, your responsibility is just to plant seeds, right? But you got to know what seeds to plant. If you want to grow apples, you got to plant apple seeds. But let me tell you something. It's not up to you to turn a seed to an apple tree that develops apples. That's not up to you. You're not responsible for that. You're just responsible for planting the seed and knowing what seed you're planting. So the question is, what do you want? That's God's problem to figure out how it's going to happen, for us to trust in him. That's why faith is important. Next question is, why do I want it? Why do I want this? See, I've had to wrestle with that because the question, why do I want this? I was coming up with answers like, really, it's just for me. It was just for my benefit, right? I want to go after and build this business because I wanted the success. I wanted the glory, but that's not really, sure, you can do that. You can go after it. But I believe the best way to succeed is to serve. It's part of what you're doing rooted in service. Right? It's part of the purpose and the assignment rooted in really wanting to solve a problem that you care about. Right? Like, why do I want this? Why do I want it? Why do I really want this? Okay. And then what's the next best step to take? Let me tell you, the answer can't be, I don't know. It's not a good enough answer. Because to me, when we say, I don't know, we're really just saying, you know what? I just haven't looked long enough. I haven't looked hard enough. The answer is there. So what's the best next step to take? What is the best, just one next step to take toward what I got to do? And that's going to require knowledge, right? You may not really kind of know the best next step to take because maybe you haven't read a book but it requires reading. The best way to be able to get some of this is reading and relationships, because some of the ways to accelerate some of these answers is, yes, to ask someone, but you got to have some of the answers. You got to have some foundational stuff to work with first. Like, hey man, like I got to do research in this. Well, who do I know knows that area, right? Maybe the best next step for me is I have to learn about this. Well, who do I know that knows a lot about that? But for me to get to the person that knows a lot about that thing, I got to come to the first realization that I need to learn about that thing. Right? Like, my best next step to take might be, you know what, dude, I need to get a trainer. I need to get somebody who knows this. Well, who do I know who's a trainer? Now I can go start talking to them. See me, I'm asking myself the next questions along the way. We've got to spend time doing this. Okay. But listen, the main thing I have to help you understand is you have to think about this stuff. You have to spend time thinking about this stuff. It's a lost art trying to figure this out. And here's the beauty behind this whole thing. Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 and 8 says, ask and you shall receive, or ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened. Okay? Ask and it will be given to you. The question is, are we really spending enough time asking? See, when we ask these questions, He's saying it will be given to you, but you got to ask, what do you want? This is time with God where he can give you the answer, but I can't tell you what you want. I can't. I'm me trying to help you get clarity is going to be me asking you the questions, right? Getting good at asking the right questions to help you get there. Knock and it shall be open. Oftentimes we're not knocking long enough. We're not knocking long enough to get for the door to be open. And then seeking you will find. We're not seeking. But here's where we can find some confidence in this, is that you will find, the door will be opened, and if you ask, it will be given to you. Your job is to ask. Your job is to knock. Your job is to seek. Just do your part. The other part's on the other side. You are closer to clarity than you realize. But you got to spend time, stop doing and get into this. And here's what I'm telling you, man. On the other side of that is clarity. With clarity comes confidence. With clarity comes a level of consistency, right? With clarity becomes getting unstuck. With clarity becomes a sense of power. See, when I started doing this and kind of doing these exercises to help me get clarity along the way, like I started realizing, like, man, if I just sit down and think about this stuff, I start getting ideas that had I not spent time thinking, I would have never gotten. And sometimes the answer won't come right there, but if you sleep on it, and if you know for certain that the answer is there, see, even if I may not get it immediately, I know the answer is there. It's just a matter of time before it comes, right? It's there. I don't know, can I be acceptable? So knowing that it's there, you have one of those thoughts. Have you ever had that time where like there's a thought, like a brilliant idea comes to mind? You're like, oh my gosh, that's like the next thing. That's something I need to do. That's something I need to I need to do that thing. Or I need to think about it more, whatever the case may be. But those aha moments, those are like answers whenever we're trying to get clarity on something. But we got to spend time doing it. We got to get the lost art back of critical thinking, man. And I'm telling you, the answers you're looking for on the other side, man, it's going to be an absolute blessing. And I want you to imagine what it would be like to get just the next step answer, to get the answer for the next step, to get the clarity on, okay, this is my purpose. These are the things that I need to start pursuing and I feel confident about. Imagine what that would feel like. Well, man, it's only a thought away. It's only some time away. Do the things that I mentioned on this podcast and you'll watch how fruitful it is. All right, you guys, listen, I hope this was nothing but a blessing for you. As we always say, and again, I can't wait to see you next week, pouring into you, helping you go from excellent to elite. Make sure you share this episode, and I'll see you guys soon.